Welcome to the Woodshed podcast. I'm Aaron Tornberg, and I'm here today with Grant Maloy Smith, and he will be talking to us shortly. How are you doing today, Grant?
I'm doing great, Aaron. Thanks for having me on today.
No problem, and I'm glad to have you. We're going to be doing a lot in the next couple hours, but first I wanted to talk about the hearing room. And the hearing room is a really important place for a lot of musicians. Local musicians come here, as many of you know, to be able to perform and have a place for feedback and to meet other musicians. It's really a social event as much as it is a professional event. And we have a great time here, but in order to stay open, we do need memberships, which I will talk about later. But first, I will talk about the events we have here. And the events are, first of all, we have the podcast, which is once a week, or twice a week, I'm sorry. It's Monday is the day when we actually have it at the hearing room in terms of live. It goes out live Monday at 7. We also have the Blues Jam. That comes once a month, and that's second Monday of every month. And we have a band here, Woody Carpinella and Roland Oxenbein and Tim Feeler. They're all here playing as a band, and you can come play with them. It's a lot of fun. And blues makes it so a lot of people can manage that. So we have a great time, and we have all kinds of people coming, harmonica players, and we have a lot of guitarists, and we have bass players. We have different people coming just to jam. So Blues Jam is once a month, second Monday of the month. On Tuesdays every week, we have the open mic. On Wednesdays, we have Let's Have Words, which is the spoken word open mic that we do. Then we have Thursday Singin' Jam. That's where we have a big group that sings to a screen with words and chords. So you can follow along, you can know the song everybody's playing, and you can get solos if you're so inclined. So that's a lot of fun. And then Fridays, we have different events. But right now, the schedule is that we have first Friday of the month, the Acoustic Jam. The third Friday is the Bluegrass Jam. And then other Fridays are other things. We do have a Pink Floyd night coming up where it's an open mic, but you have to play Pink Floyd. So we have themed open mics. We've had Beatles. I can't remember who else we had. We had, you look on the website, you can find it. But we have had several themed evenings, and we also have other events coming on Saturday, things like Performance Lab and some other electronic kind of music. That is a good night for that. We have the Drone on that night, which is where everybody comes and plays electronic instruments at the same time. So everybody comes with their synthesizers, and it's a big cacophony, and it actually surprisingly becomes quite relaxing because of all the sound that's coming at you. It's almost like a Zen experience. So that's a lot of fun too. And we do have performances as well. We have various people coming, like we have Guy Davis coming. We have the Kennedys. So we do have shows here as well. We just had Folkopotamus and Eric Kilburn. So we have a lot of things going on. Check our website, hearingroom.net, and you can find out more. And I also want to thank the Greenville Junction Shop. But before I do that, I want to mention that Sundays we have the Drum Circle 12:30 to 1:30, and we have the open mic 2 to 5 that I run. And Sunday nights, you got to check the website. Occasionally we do have things going on. So Guy Davis is actually on a Sunday, and so are the Kennedys. So check that out. The Greenville Junction Shop is our sponsor, and they are an amazing place to go and to find used items that are gently used so you can reuse. It's an upcycling store, and I just saw that the Greenville Junction Shop actually is opening a showroom in Greenville, New Hampshire, but they do have a lot of stuff online, so you can check that out. They have a Facebook page, Greenville Junction Shoppy. So it's JUNKTIONSHOPPE. the Greenville Junction Shoppy. And you can check them out on Facebook. They also have Greenville Junction with a K.com, and you can check them out there. They also do estate clean out and garage clean out. So if you are so inclined to do that, I think everybody could use a little cleaning every now and then, and a little help getting rid of things you otherwise wouldn't want to get rid of. You know, that thing you've been saying, oh, I'm going to sell that. Well, Greenville Junction might be able to help you. So check out Greenville Junction Shoppy, and that's on Facebook. And they also have stuff on Facebook Marketplace. You can see some of their items. So here I am. It's Aaron Tornberg here talking with Grant Maloy Smith. So Grant, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Feels like winter's over, even though we're kind of in the middle of it, but it's not as cold as it used to be.
That's right, and it's getting warm, so we'll see how that goes. I imagine it will get warmer. I hope so.
Let's hope.
So you came from pretty far away. So where do you live?
I live in Rhode Island, so it's about 2 hours south of here.
Yeah. So, but Grant has been here as well, doing some stuff. He has been here for I think an open mic feature and an evening feature with Charlie Farron.
Right, that's right.
With Pratik as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
that was fun.
Yeah, that was a good time. And Grant has a lot of different stuff going on. But first, Grant, I'm going to ask you about where you're from originally.
Well, originally from the Florida Panhandle, or as we call it down there, the Lower Alabama. It's kind of tongue-in-cheek referred to as that because it's just that little strip of Florida that's directly below Alabama, between Alabama and the Gulf of Mexico there. So that's where I'm originally from. Some people call it the Redneck Riviera, but in a nice way. Not in the old-fashioned way of using that word, but it's a nice place to grow up, as long as a hurricane doesn't come up and get you.
Yeah, but at least it's warm, right?
It's very warm, yeah. Almost, and the beaches are amazing. You've never seen the white sand like you'll see along the Florida Gulf Coast there.
Yeah, so I've been to Florida just a couple of times. I go to Gainesville to see a friend sometimes, and that's a nice area, especially if you like the weather.
It can be quite hot. And when I grew up there, we didn't have any air conditioning.
Oh, really?
Not even in the car. It cost a lot of money back then to get it in the car. It's like an option.
Yeah, they think that it's an option up in Vermont and New Hampshire, too, because they think, oh, it's never that hot here. But you know what? It is.
It can be, yeah.
It can
be.
On my honeymoon, we went to Vermont, and we needed air conditioning in the place we stayed. It was a ski lodge. Oh. They don't have any. Huh? So that was a treat. Yeah. So you grew up in Florida, and what did your parents do down there?
Well, my dad was a Navy pilot, so that's why we ended up moving up to New England. He got transferred to flying helicopters, and then so we ended up at Quonset Point in Rhode Island. So that's why we made the move up there when I was still in school, elementary school. Yeah,
did you become a pilot?
No, not at all. I just fly airplanes, but only in the back.
Yeah, or paper ones, I guess.
Yeah, I'm very good at those too.
Okay. Well, that's cool though. So your dad ever take you up in some of the faster jets?
Well, not really fast ones, but we did fly once in a while. One time, this is a long time ago, he was flying for Eastern Airlines after he left the Navy, and he was able to. He had what they call ferry an airplane up from Providence to Boston, or something, or the other way. I can't remember. But so he allowed me to go with him, and I got to sit in the front. It's probably not allowed, but it doesn't matter. It was a long time ago, and he's passed away, so they can't come get him anymore. But that was pretty amazing to see, especially at night, because it was at night, and to land at Logan Airport sitting in the front of a 707 or whatever it was, 727 probably back then. That was pretty cool.
Wow, that's neat. I'm kind of jealous.
Yeah, I wish I could do it again.
That's nice. I've been in a flight simulator.
It's almost the same.
But not quite.
No.
You don't get that feeling.
Yeah.
Did your mom work as well?
Not back then, no. She was raising me and my two sisters for a long time. She did have jobs over the years, but once we got a little bit older, where she didn't have to when you have little kids, it's 24/7 taking care of them. But as we got older and like in high school and that kind of stuff, she would do jobs around. Nothing really. She didn't really have a career per se, although she was in human resources quite often. She liked that. She liked that stuff.
Yeah, that's a career.
Yeah. She eventually went down to Florida too. One of my sisters is still there. The other one is not. She's up here in Attleboro, in Massachusetts.
All right.
So we split up a little bit. The family was originally mostly from eastern Kentucky. It's where my mother was from. Her mother, and then going back 10 more mothers back into the 1700s, they were all from eastern Kentucky in the mountains.
So you can sing a Muhlenberg County song, and back in eastern Kentucky where my parents were born.
It's the Muhlenberg. Okay, my family's Perry County.
Okay.
Hazard was the main town in that county. So we were near there. Viper,
Dukes of Hazzard.
And Fusonia. Right? Yeah, well, that was Hazard, Georgia, I think.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. I think it was Hazard County in Georgia, I think. But this is Perry County, but the town of Hazard in eastern Kentucky. And, and that's the kind of music I play really comes from that world. And not just the kind of music I play, but the kind of music millions of people play that play American roots music. Most of it came out of the hills and the hollers there in Kentucky and Tennessee and West Virginia and Western Virginia and of course the Smoky Mountain western extremes of the Carolinas as well. That's the kind of central Appalachia place where all this music came out of 100 years ago.
Yeah, you said that you're doing a show about Appalachia coming up. You're writing some stuff.
Yeah, I've written almost everything, I think, at this point, unless another song pops out here or there. But I had an album that came out 2 years ago called Dust Bowl American Stories. That was a theme album where all the songs are set in the time and the place of the Dust Bowl, which was in the Great Plains in the 1930s. And that was very successful in terms of, commercially speaking, the album was, and musically speaking too. I really enjoyed writing a theme album. Mm-hmm. And I actually found it easier than just staring at a blank piece of paper and trying to figure out what to write. Because, if you get... It's like scoring a movie. I've done that a few times too. And that's actually surprisingly easy because you see the movie, you have the script, and you know what's going to happen. And you kind of, if you've seen enough movies, even if you're not a musician, you sort of know where music probably should be and what it should be like. So it almost writes itself. And It's kind of the same with a theme record like Dust Bowl. I mean, I studied the Dust Bowl a lot. It took me 3 years to make the record. Mm-hmm. So I knew the hot points, or the high points, and the low points, because you want to encompass the drama of it. And it was a very dramatic decade, actually, with millions of people being displaced in their own country, wandering the countryside, trying to find a place to live, and so on. And, of course, the drama itself of the unbelievable dust storms that were hundreds of miles wide and 10,000 feet tall that just came across the plains and just wreaked havoc everywhere they went.
Right.
Buried houses and buried everything, and people got lost in their own front yard.
Wow.
You imagine that?
I don't have to, luckily.
Let's hope we don't.
Yeah.
So now I'm making a theme record again, because I like doing that now, and it's going to be set in Appalachia, where my family's from and where millions of families are from, because there's a lot of history there, too. Nothing so dramatic as the Dust Bowl. No singular event like that, but there's a lot of history there. And, of course, the music I play is from there. Well,
there is, of course, the Civil War.
Sure. That's definitely
plenty of that out there.
Definitely a part of that. They were big. Well, the whole country, the whole eastern half of the country was definitely very much involved in both the Revolutionary War and the Civil War.
Yeah.
And today we have issues like, the isolation of the mountains. Like my relatives came over from Scotland and England and Ireland, and they liked the mountains because that's kind of what they were used to, particularly the ones from Scotland. Mm-hmm. And even the Ulster Scots, which were they were in Ireland, but had been transplanted over from Scotland. And that was the formation of what's today Northern Ireland. But anyway, they liked the mountains, they liked the isolation, they liked the hills, they liked the hollers. And that's great, but it also tends to isolate people, when you're off like that and you're kind of disconnected from the rest of the culture. And there's good parts to that, but there's bad parts. And you see that now today with there's an epidemic of drug addiction and, low employment compared to the rest of the country and a general feeling of helplessness or hopelessness on the part of some. So I'm trying to capture that too. The rise and the fall of the coal industry. That's a very big part of the history there, particularly in West Virginia and Kentucky and parts of the other states as well. But there's some rich coal to mine in those hills. So that's what I'm doing, artistically speaking.
Yeah, and so you're working on this, but let's go back a bit. How did you get into music?
Wow. Well, I think I had two main influences, and they were very different from each other. One was the influence from this part of the country that I mentioned, because my grandmother and my mother were both from there.
I'm sorry.
No problem. But so my mother and her mother were influencing me with all this kind of what my grandmother called mountain music, and I had those records too. But I also had, as a little kid, like 5 years old, I was also just got, like the whole rest of the world, got infatuated by the Beatles, which is drastically different kind of music, but also super exciting when it first came out, and the whole world became transfixed by that, me included, even though I was very, very young. So I had an interesting record collection as a child. It was Bill Monroe and mountain music like that, bluegrass and all that kind of stuff, and also the Beatles, the first couple of records, and maybe the odd Captain Kangaroo record. Just to round out my collection.
Captain Kangaroo, I haven't heard of that in a while.
Oh, he had all kinds of records out.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. He was...
music from the show, basically. The kids' show back in the 60s.
I remember the show because there were reruns of it when I was watching it. But, he was pretty impressive guy. He was big for a while. Yeah,
that was your mother would park you in front of the Captain Kangaroo show in the morning while she was trying to get breakfast or get dressed or something like that.
It was pre-Sesame Street, before Sesame Street.
Yeah, that's right. Sesame kind of took over from those kind of entertainment shows like that.
And so you got into music, like your interest, it sounds like, from your parent.
And I even had little guitars back then, little cheap ones that I had no idea how to play, but I would bang around on them and listen to records and try to play along. And I could always play along on piano or guitar. I could do it by ear. Mm-hmm. And years later, I actually learned music. But back then, I could always just play something after I heard it. So I got interested in that. But it wasn't really till the end of high school that I got really serious about it and wanted to learn truly how to play and focus on it and learn how to write songs.
So when did you start writing?
I think I was in my first year of college. I got bitten at the very end of high school by a serious bug wanting to learn to play and sing and be able to stand up in front of people and play a song that I'd written. So over that summer, I got a guitar. I'm sure it was like $15 at a yard sale. Mm-hmm. In fact, it was. I should tell you that story because it's kind of silly.
Okay.
I think it was the last month or two of high school. When you get to the end of high school, and I would never take a study hall, so I was basically done with high school credit-wise by January. I was done, but I still had you can't leave till it's over.
Right.
But they would let the seniors who didn't have a class in a certain period just hang out in this courtyard we had in the middle of the school, an outdoor courtyard. And I was walking across it one day, and I heard somebody sitting in the grass playing the guitar and singing. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't see who it was. His back was to me. And he was surrounded by people who were watching him. And I said, who's doing that? Because, when you're a kid that age, that's not cool. Maybe it is now, but not then. So I got up close enough where I could see, and it was my friend Scott, who was probably the shyest boy in the whole high school. Mm-hmm. And I just couldn't believe my eyes. Here's this kid who would never ask a girl to dance or anything. He wouldn't even talk to a girl. He was so shy. And yet he would sit there and play and sing. And I just stood there with my mouth open. I couldn't believe my eyes. And he was pretty good. He was really nice technique on the guitar and singing. I was like, my goodness, I couldn't believe it. Then I noticed he was surrounded by 9 out of 10 of those people watching him were girls.
Right.
And they were all staring at him, batting their little eyelashes. And I looked at him, and I looked at them, and I looked at him, and I looked back at them, and I said, I got to get me a guitar. That's what I need, because every 17-year-old boy wants to be surrounded by girls who are staring at him. And by the way, that doesn't end after 17 either. So I think a week or two later, I was on my bike riding through another neighborhood, and I saw a guitar, and it was a $15 guitar. So I rode all the way home, and I got my $15, and I rode all the way back. And then I had to figure out how to carry my guitar while I'm riding a bike, which is really not that possible. So I think I walked back a mile. And then I spent the whole summer teaching myself how to play. And then it continued on when I went to college. And there was a classroom where I could play the piano at night when no one was around. So I would learn both. And I thought it was helpful I could figure stuff out in the piano easier because it's laid out very linearly, unlike the guitar fretboard. But I could figure it out in the piano and then find the same notes on the guitar. And by going back and forth, I really taught myself a lot. And over the next couple of years, I started to learn how to write songs. They weren't very good yet, but at least I was on the way.
Right. So where was this? Where you were?
In college?
Yeah.
Yeah. I went down to the Maryland Institute College of Art, or MICA, they call it. It's in northern Baltimore. Because I was my whole life going to be an artist.
Oh, yeah?
That's what I was preordained to be.
What medium?
Well, drawing and painting. Oil, not sculpting. I was never any good at that. But the two-dimensional art, drawing and painting.
Wow. You still do that?
Yeah, once in a while. I don't have a lot of time for it anymore.
You do your own album covers?
Yes.
Nice.
I do all that stuff.
So everybody needs to get a copy of your actual album and see what art you did.
Well, I think at Dust Bowl I used a real picture
up
from the day of the Dust Bowl. But then there's an insert in the album where there's a bunch of pictures. Some are photographs and some are pictures I took or some illustrations that I made.
Cool. So when you started doing the songwriting, were you playing out as well?
Not until a couple of years later. And I had a rock band, basically, kind of a pop rock band in Rhode Island after college. That was kind of fun. And this is in the 80s. And we got to be pretty good. We opened up for some fairly big groups back then, like Jack Bruce and Steppenwolf and the Guess Who and a few other bands like that all around New England. We played in New Hampshire and Maine and Massachusetts, all the New England states we played around.
Yeah, well, the Guess Who is actually they're pretty big.
Yeah.
They're on all the classic rock, and Steppenwolf, Born to be Wild.
Yeah, that was a trip.
Yeah.
That show, that was in West Hartford, I think. And I thought, and I'm a little, 20-something-year-old kid, and Steppenwolf was, that band, particularly John himself, they were kind of tough. They looked like bikers. Were bikers, and the whole audience was all bikers. They opened up the doors to this big place about an hour before the show, and motorcycles came in the building and started doing donuts around. And I thought the women looked tougher than I was, and the guys looked like they would murder me for no reason. So I thought, I'm not going to stand still on that stage. I'm going to be running back because they're not there to see me. I'm just the opening act. They don't want to see me at all.
Right, you better be good.
I better be good. I better be really loud, and I better keep moving so I don't get hit by something flying through the air.
So you want to play a song?
Sure, I can play a song. I know a lot of Justin Bieber songs if you'd like me to play one of those. I'm just joking.
I mean, I'd prefer not, but it's up to you.
I don't even know any Justin Bieber songs. I'll play a song from the Dust Bowl album. How about that?
That sounds great.
It's called Ride That Train. In my kind of music, you got to have a train song.
Oh, of course.
And you got to have a prison song. And you got to have a good murdering song. So I put them all together into one.
Okay.
Trying to be eco-friendly.
That makes sense.
If you're ready, I'll take it away.
Just like the Greenville Junction shop, with the upcycling. You're upcycling all the genres.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I still dream, but I can't sleep without you. I still roam, but I'm not free. I still rise, even when I'm falling. Don't you don't wait for me. Ride that train, ride that plane without me. Ride that train, break that chain to me. I still love, yes, I still love you. I still ache, but I don't seem to care. You were wrong. Oh, Don't look back, you ain't headed there. Ride that train, light that flame without me. Ride that train, break that chain. There's no sky, no clouds above me, no fear or chores to do, and no wings for me to fly on high, back to you. Ride that train, light that flame without me. Ride that train, break that chain. Ride that train, light that flame without me, oh without me. Ride that train, break that chain to me.
Thank you.
That was great. I like that. That's got a good hook, too.
Yeah. That's fun to play. It gets my blood pressure up.
Yeah.
So it's a nice warm-up song, too.
It's good. So when you were doing the band, you got to open for a bunch of people. But when you had your own shows, how did you market that back then?
Well, back then, wow, that was kind of hard to do because it was before the internet. So you had to put up posters around town. You had to do word of mouth, or if you had enough money, put an ad in the paper. Usually back then, the venues would all have a regular ad that they were running too that would show the upcoming acts that are there too. Because, back then, no email, no internet, no nothing. So you had to do it on paper, basically, or
Right.
word of mouth.
Right, and now papers barely exist. So,
Yeah, exactly.
But, they do still. But so when you finished with the band, when did you start doing solo stuff?
Wow, that was many years later because I went off and I had a family and kids and that kind of stuff. And so I didn't have time to go. I couldn't go out and play anymore. But I still kept busy with music all those years that I wasn't really playing live anymore. And like I mentioned at the very beginning, I did a bunch of movie stuff too. I still made records that no one ever listened to because, if you don't go out and play them, no one's ever going to hear them.
Right.
But I just kept my writing skills. I kept working very hard on my songwriting and all those years, and did movies and some TV shows and stuff. Nothing big, nothing you've ever probably heard of. But that's really good experience as a musician, as a composer, because it teaches you not just how to play the guitar and sing, but teaches you how to use the whole orchestra and how to create something bigger than just like a 3-piece band or 5-piece band or whatever, but use the whole orchestra and all the colors that are in there. And that influenced me too in terms of when I came back to being an artist myself and playing like I do now and making albums that people actually do listen to. It helped me because it influenced my album approach. For example, if I hadn't done all those movies and got into that whole creating something bigger than just a bunch of songs, I don't think I ever would have thought about doing a theme album, and making it something kind of not grandiose, but something just bigger than a collection of songs. Something that had a theme or a current of meaning that ran through the whole thing.
So when you were doing the movies, what's the process like when you have to write a score for a movie or music for a movie?
Yeah.
Do you do songs or do you really do a score?
Well, I would do both usually for most movies because they wouldn't have the budget to pay for songs from famous artists to be put in there. So they would usually go to me and say, all right, I know you're scoring the movie, which is one thing. That's like an orchestral score typically. Not always, but usually.
Right.
But in addition, we need some songs. Like there's a scene in a restaurant or a bar where we need to have a song, and it needs to feel like, and they would name one that they were thinking of that they didn't have $50,000 to get for the movie.
Right.
So they would say, write something kind of like that. So I got to produce and write all kinds of different songs in all genres, like Frank Sinatra kind of stuff, Tony Bennett stuff, stuff from the 40s, 50s, 60s, 80s, rap stuff. I'm not very good at that, but
Right.
I have some friends that can do it. So I can create a track and they can come and rap over it. That was a good experience too. But those are source cues. But in terms of the meaning that it's music that the people on the screen can also hear theoretically.
Right.
Usually they're not really hearing it, but sometimes they are. If they have to react to it, they're hearing it. But then there's the score, which only the audience can hear. And that process is kind of, I found it kind of fun, actually, even though it's high pressure, because typically by the time they hand you the movie and they've locked it and said, okay, we're not going to edit it anymore, so here you go, the clock is ticking immediately like they want to do something with it. So all the pressure goes from everybody else to you in 1 second.
Wow.
And usually, though, I've started months before, so I know I have my themes down. Now it's just a matter of fashioning them to fit the exact timing of the scenes. But the process normally is once you get hired, you go through the script. You have what they call a spotting session with the director, usually the director, and you go through the script and you agree on where music should be and the kind of music it should be. Mm-hmm. Usually the director has ideas. Sometimes they don't. By then, we've both gone through the script a bunch of times, the director more than me, because they're in charge of everything, and I'm only in charge of music. But I've definitely read the script, and I've made my own ideas, put them down on paper, what I think should be. But I always like to get their input, because that helps me, too. Like, if they have a particular movie that they like the music to, where they think that music would work well, and this, not to copy the music, but to kind of understand the feeling they want the music to give the audience.
Right.
That's what I try to get from them if they thought about it. Sometimes they have. Some directors are very musical. They understand the terminology of music and the feeling of it and the process of it. Others absolutely not. Don't know anything about it. They rely more on the composer. But either way, I've worked with all kinds of different directors. Yeah. It's fun. It's a fun process, actually. Even though it's high pressure, it's fun.
Do you record the music like they show on... I've seen scenes of them in front of the screen with the movie actually finished, except for the music, and then you play live on, in time to the movie? Is that how that works?
It depends on the budget. Usually the budget does not allow a real orchestra to be hired for, $1,000 an hour.
Oh, so you're doing synthesizer? Or?
Not synthesizers, but I have... really, like all the composers do, by the way, an incredibly rich library of real samples of every instrument from the orchestra playing every note that the instrument can play in a wide variety of ways that you can play the note. Different approaches, different attack, and so on. They do just about every movie that way, despite what they try to tell you. Almost every movie's done that way. And then if they have the budget, they'll go in and add some real orchestral stuff on top of that stuff.
How do you put that together, though? That sounds like a long time to find the right notes for the specific instrument, and they're just like a library you have to go through and note by note.
Yeah. You have virtual instruments that you can play the violin using a keyboard, or you can play the cello or whatever.
Oh, I see.
Using a keyboard, and you have usually with your right hand you're playing the actual notes, and with your left hand you're using other keys as modifiers to influence how the notes sound. So you've got different keys over on your left hand where you can, if you press like the two A's below middle C, it'll make the instrument have a portamento where it goes up to the note from a half note below. Or the next key down makes it go up from 2 notes below, so it goes dun or dun. or the other way around, or like a trill that goes. It's unbelievable.
Wow.
And then different levels, like with the violin, is particularly complicated because the violin can sound so different depending on how it's bowed. You know?
Yeah, and you do that part?
Yes,
Yeah,
you have to do all
play
that.
Wow.
After a while, you get good at it. You'd be surprised.
Well, it sounds like it's a lot of fun to try and do that, though. It's cool.
It's a lot of work, but it is a lot of fun.
Yeah, and then you come out with the final product, and
Yep. And then invariably they change the movie because they watched it for 2 weeks and they go, "No, we got to change this. We're adding 30 seconds to that scene." I'm like, and I say some bad words that only I can hear, and then I have to go modify what I did. But that's not so bad.
Yeah.
As starting from zero.
And do you go to Hollywood to do it, or do you do it from home and just send it back and forth?
Well, I have my own studio, so everything today is done that way. You send it back and forth. Sometimes I'll go out for a session if necessary. If the movie's based in Hollywood, sometimes I've done movies that are from New England too.
Right.
So it depends where the movie's from. And if they have a premiere, sometimes I'll go to those too. Mm-hmm. Those are fun and a little bit weird to go to, in the sense that by the time you've scored a movie, you've seen every frame of that movie 5,000 times.
Right.
So, and I've also seen like outtakes and people talking, and so after months of working on a movie, I feel like I know everybody, but they don't know who I am at all. They've never seen me before.
Right.
And so I walk up to them, "Hey, Charlie, how's it going?" They're like, "Who are you?" I have no idea who you are.
Right.
Like, really, I've spent the last 3 months staring at your face. So that's kind of weird.
Have we seen any of the movies you've scored?
Oh, probably not. There weren't really big movies. I didn't score Star Wars or anything like that. But,
right.
I'm sure nothing that anybody's more than a handful of people compared to big movies have seen.
Yeah.
But it's a fun experience. It's fun to go to the premiere and see it in a theater with the audience.
Yeah.
Reacting.
What's your favorite genre to score?
I think thrillers are kind of the most fun. You get a lot of juicy opportunities to create action music and very tense music too.
Yeah,
which
sort
I
of like
to do.
John Carpenter's thing.
Yeah, right. That's very tense music.
That's like that's all he wrote was like 4 notes.
Yeah, exactly. He wasn't really a musician per se, but
it sounded great.
Yeah, right. He found the right mood for those 4 notes.
Yeah. And well, that's cool. And so, when you were raising your kids, were you doing music full time?
No.
Okay.
I actually created a company that sold electronic scientific measuring equipment.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, which is completely outside the realm of music and all that stuff, but it paid the bills.
Mm-hmm.
So
you still doing that?
No. Yeah.
I
just do music for the last 3-4 years. That's all I do now.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, it's more fun to do music.
Well, I would tend to agree, but some people.
It's hard to afford it. It's hard to make money in the music business. So
right, even if you're scoring movies,
it doesn't matter now. Hardly make any money at that unless you get to be really big and famous or score a gigantic movie. That has a big budget.
Yeah, check with Danny Elfman.
He probably makes pretty good money.
So, you want to do another song?
Sure. Let's see. You have any preference about what kind of song? Slow, fast?
Let's do a slow one. We did kind of a fast one.
Yeah,
already.
okay. I'll do. Make sure I'm in tune. Yeah, it's not too bad. I'll do a song called Eshtathamko, which means have strength in the Choctaw language. And the reason I wrote the song, it's on the Dust Bowl American Stories album. I got almost all the way done writing the album, and a friend of mine said, "You missed something really big about the Dust Bowl." And I said, "I did not. I've studied this for years now. I didn't miss anything big." He said, "No, really, it's not in the books, but you got to look up what happened to the Native Americans during the Dust Bowl." So I did, and I discovered that almost all the Native American people that are in, particularly Oklahoma, are there because of the Trail of Tears 100 years before the Dust Bowl. They were forcibly relocated from the American Southeast up into the Great Plains. They were exiled to make room for more of us white people down there in the Southeast. It's not a very good time in our history. But anyway, they were marched up in the winter. The Choctaw were the first of the 5 tribes that were marched up there by the Army in the 1830s. And and just basically exiled because no one believed in the 1830s that the Great Plains could ever be farmed. They just seemed like big, flat grasslands. It's prairie grass, basically. And there's no water readily available. Back then, the technology, they couldn't drill down, a mile like we can now and get water, and they didn't have a pipeline system to bring it in, and no highways to even truck it in on. So there's really no way to get lots of water like you need to farm back in the 1830s. So they were basically exiled to the surface of the moon. So I didn't know how to write this song, but I knew I had to have it on the record. And by the way, the Choctaw were just the first. There was the Chickasaw, the Creek, the Cherokees, the Seminoles, even from my home state of Florida, all put up there by the millions, and left to be forgotten, basically. But anyway, I contacted the Choctaw tribe down in Durant, Oklahoma, and I found some people that were very helpful to me to help me to understand their culture and their history and their feelings in general about what all happened there. So I wrote this song called Eshtethamko, and it's on the Dust Bowl American Stories album.
Earth below my blanket, sky above my head, just outside my vision, the night was turning red. Water is our lifeline, rain is like our blood. Why is our whole world dying? Lord, what have we done? But it's all right. We're still breathing. Eshtethamko. We're not leaving. Air has come against us, clouds of Homerow. Listen to the wind song, singing from his soul. Fire has cooked our rabbits and lit our sky for years. We will not be beaten. Walk the trail of tears, but it's all right. We're still breathing. Eshtethamko. We're not leaving, but it's all right. We're still breathing. Eshtethamko. We're not leaving.
Thank you.
So that was great. Very poignant. I like the melody as well.
Thank you.
That's great. We're going to take a short break here. We're at the middle of the show. So I wanted to step in and talk about hearing room memberships. So I mentioned at the beginning of this show that we do have memberships at the Hearing Room, and you can find more about them at hearingroom.net. So hearingroom.net is where you can go click on the membership link, and you can join for $100 a year. And what that does is that helps us stay open. That is the money we use for rent and for utilities. We are trying to have 200 members total, And if we can get 200 members, that will support us for the full year. So we're at 104 to go right now. So we still need a lot of members coming in. And these are often members are people who come regularly to the hearing room, but you don't have to. But if you come regularly, there are some benefits too. Like you get $5 off all events. So some of the events are $5 suggested donation. And so if you get $5 off events, you could come in and not make your suggested donation because you're a member. And there are a lot of other benefits. Like, for example, you get to be part of the community, and that means getting advanced notice on big shows. So there will be some shows where members get the tickets first. So we have some good ones coming up with Guy Davis and the Kennedys, and the people who know about it first are the members. And then there's the T-shirt you get, the exclusive Hearing Room T-shirt, and a membership card, which is made from recycled materials, and it's cool. It's like almost wooden. It has a wood look to it, but it's made out of recycled materials. So there's a lot of cool stuff going on here that you can participate in, but membership helps that all function and work. So to become a member, again, you go to hearingroom.net and you click on membership, and you can sign up for $100 a year. And you'll know that you are paying our rent and keeping the utilities going so that we can pay for the electricity that allows us to produce all these great shows with lights and sound and all the other stuff. So please check that out, and also check out the Greenville Junction Shop. And again, that's Greenville, JUNKTION SHOPPE. The Greenville Junction Shop is an upcycling shop in Greenville, New Hampshire. And you can go to Greenville, New Hampshire's new showroom in a little while. They aren't quite open yet, but you can still buy stuff online. Check out their Facebook page. Their Facebook page is Greenville Junction, JUNKTION SHOPPE, Greenville Junction Shoppy. So you can check that out. You can also check out their website, greenvillejunction.com. It's under construction, but there is a website up, and there are a few items on it, and there's the phone numbers and contact information, and hopefully pictures from the new showroom will be coming soon. So check that out, and you can go visit them in Greenville, New Hampshire as soon as they open their doors, which should be soon. And they sponsor the show. They're a great place to go, and that rhymes. So I guess that's time for more discussion with Grant. So Grant, your guitar has some interesting features, like three signatures?
Yep, 3 different ones.
Yeah, so who signed that?
The first one up here, they're all impossible to read, by the way. You can't see it. But it says Doyle Lawson. He is a legendary bluegrass mandolin player. He's really an amazing guy. I got the chance to play with him last February down in East Tennessee at a memorial show down there. It was a great big show, a lot of fun. He's a real nice guy. We had a good time. Mm-hmm. And the other 2 signatures are Rob Ickes, and this one looks like just a series of, like someone drew grass sideways. It looks like maybe a doctor wrote this. Rob Ickes is one of the best dobro players on the planet Earth. He played all the dobro on my Dust Bowl album, and I think he's won the International Bluegrass Award as the best dobro player on Earth 14 times, something like that. He's absolutely amazing, and he's been doing the last couple of years. He's been doing a duo show, duo show basically with Trey Hensley, who's a great guitar player, singer, performer. And they've played the Grand Ole Opry a bunch of times now. Mm-hmm. I played with them last April when I did Song of the Mountain. It's a PBS TV show shot in Marion, Virginia, in western Virginia, where you live not so far from there.
I did.
Yeah, it's just north or south of Wytheville. I can't remember. But it's only about an hour north of when you go past Bristol, at the border of Tennessee and Virginia. Anyway, at the Lincoln Theater, we played there together at the show that they televised. It was on PBS. They play it once in a while. You know, PBS, they get these shows, and each station around the country plays them whenever they want. So it's not like an NBC show that's on Thursdays at 9. It's on whenever the PBS local affiliate wants to play it.
Although now they have the on-demand stuff, so... You know.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You might be able, if you subscribe to that, you might be able to go see it.
Yeah. I'll check that out. I do have PBS on demand, I think.
Oh, cool.
And you said you're going to be playing Carnegie Hall.
Yeah.
What is that going to be?
That's the show, April. It's called the Indie Collaborative. I'm the co-founder of the Indie Collaborative, which is a group of more than 2,000 independent musicians all around the world. And basically, we're a mutual support group. It's really what it is. And we get together a couple of times a year and have, like we just did a big show in L.A. Last month. Normally, a lot of us go out to the Grammys for that weekend, which was back at the end of January this year. And so typically, we will do a big showcase for our members the night before the Grammys or a couple nights before, depending on what's available venue-wise. And we did a really big show there. We also do shows that we curate, so it's not just a showcase where 20 people get 5 minutes to do whatever they do or want to do. We really put together a show. We design it, we curate it, we choose the players, we even choose the material they're going to play and figure out how they're going to combine to join forces together to play it. And that's what we're doing at Carnegie Hall on April 26th this year. We did one in November of 2018, so about a year and 4 months ago we did one. And we just had 3 acts, just me and Voder Kellerman, who's a Grammy-winning flute player from South Africa, amazing. When you say flute player, people think, oh, that sounds like a guy in a tuxedo. It must be really boring. Not a guy from South Africa playing the flute. It's moving, it's dancing, it's incredibly entertaining, what he does. And then my co-founder, Eileen Sherman, co-founder of the Indie Collaborative, she's a musical theater writer. And so she had a group of Tony Award-winning performers and singers doing some of her stuff she's written too over the years. So, but again, this one in April is going to be bigger. It's by the way, that's did I say April 26th? I think it's April 22nd, which is Earth Day. I think it's Wednesday. It's Earth Day. So we're doing a show based on that theme of the Earth, taking care of the Earth and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to do that song I just played, Eshta Thamko, because that's about taking care of the earth. That's why we had a dust bowl, was we didn't take care of it. Of course, the drought didn't help, but if we hadn't over-farmed, and dug up all the topsoil, it wouldn't have been hardly anywhere near as bad as it was.
Well, I have to ask you, how do you get to Carnegie Hall?
You have to practice a lot.
Oh, yeah. All right, so you want to play that one?
I just played that one, the Eshta Thamko song.
Oh, okay.
But you want to play another song?
Yeah.
I'll play a song called Man of Steel. It's not on a record yet, but it will be. Not Man of Steel like Superman, but Man of Steel like I met a young man at an airport about a year and a half, almost 2 years ago now, in Charlotte. And I was waiting for a plane. He was waiting for the same plane, and he had one of those prosthetic legs on, kind of space-age looking one. And we started talking a little bit, but then the plane was late, and so we talked more and more. Then the plane was even later, so we talked even more. And it just kept going. And finally, if you're going to sit next to somebody at an airport for 5 minutes, you don't get into their life history or anything like that. But after 3 hours, we got pretty deep. And I was just struck by his spirit. He had lost his leg over in the Middle East. He was in the Army. And it was a big explosion, and a lot of those IEDs they still have over there, but particularly back then when he got affected. But I was struck by his positive spirit. He wasn't torn up about it emotionally. He probably had been at one point, like anybody would be. But he had a very positive spirit. And I got home a week later, and I started playing around with these chords that I'm playing now. Like anyone that writes songs knows that you just, every once in a while, you stumble across something that feels right, and you go, oh, I think there's going to be a song in there. And 10 minutes later, I had this song about him. It took me another week or so to finish it, but I had the basis of it after just a few minutes. It just came out of me, and it's dedicated to him. and all the other brave people that go over there or wherever we send them and do things that we don't have to do, thank goodness. It's not to glorify war at all. War is the worst thing we do as a species, but it is to glorify people who are heroic and brave and do things that we don't have to do.
Right.
I'm proud to say that this song, which I eventually, I promise you, will play within the next 15 seconds.
Okay.
Has been selected as the official theme song for the National Veterans Foundation. So if you go to www.nvf, like National Veterans Foundation.org, you can see the video for the song and hear it play.
Okay.
And make a donation if you want to. They do lots of great work to help our veterans.
I was born right here, like everyone. Learned to read and write, learned to walk and run. Riding in my daddy's truck in summer, it felt like flying. I was a scrawny kid, not too great at school. I enlisted then, the next thing I knew, I'm saying my goodbyes and trading numbers, and mama's crying in my soldier clothes, in the blazing sun, riding dusty roads with my soldier gun. Then the earth rose up and it spit me out. There was fire and blood, I can feel it now. I'm a man of steel, made of pins and wire, but these scars will heal. I still got my fire. I'm a man of steel, ever since that day, but my heart's still real. You can't take that away. It's been 3 long months, the nurses say they're gonna ship me home, but I sure wanna stay. 'Cause every friend I have is going nowhere, but they're still trying. In my soldier clothes, in the blazing sun, riding dusty roads with my soldier gun. Then the earth rose up and it spit me out. There was fire and blood, I can feel it now. I'm a man of steel, made of pins and wire, but these scars will heal. I still got my fire. I'm a man of steel, ever since that day, but my heart's still real. I'm a man of steel, and my heart's still real. Can't take that away.
Oh, thank you.
Very nice. So, when you've written a lot of different types of songs, it sounds like, how do you go about getting the topics for your songs? Like, what inspires you? usually?
Well, sometimes it's just a coincidence like that last one where I just met someone that inspired that song. But on the records, usually it's, in the last few I've written theme records, so I'll just be studying a topic and for the record, and then I'll see something that just catches my fancy, or something that's really dramatic, or something that's really maybe poignant or soulful, and that inspires it. Usually, so it's a combination of things. It's either just my own research for a particular album, or it's something that just happens to me one day, and a song comes out. Mm-hmm. So it can happen a variety of ways. A lot of times it's just kind of random. You never know. Lightning strikes once in a while.
Right.
You know, a bolt comes out of the sky and hits you in the head and makes you think of an idea.
Yeah. So your recent stuff is the Appalachian.
Yes.
Do you have anything from that you could play?
Yeah, I could play. In fact, I've written a song for it called Boone's Five and Dime, and it's about, basically it's about, well, I got the idea from my father's father. So my father's father, that side of the family, was from Appalachia, but farther north than my mother's side. So his part of Appalachia that he grew up in, it was in the western part of this state, out in the Berkshire Mountains. And my grandfather ran a grocery store up in the hills for years, a little tiny one, like the size of this room, barely.
Yeah.
And a little tiny grocery store, and just for the people in the hills, basically. And I remember years later, he had sold it, but he took me through the hills. I was maybe 10. And he would drive up in the hills. He and my dad would go fishing the day before in the river and fill up a big white styrofoam thing full of fish. And they would just go up with loaves of bread. And he would visit all the old customers that he used to have because he knew where they all lived. I mean, it was like a really small community back in the day. And that really taught me something. But he didn't just view them as customers. They were his friends. And they still remembered him 20 years after. So this is dedicated to him and all the other people in the hills that... or small towns, doesn't have to be the hills, but small places like that create a store like that. They give people credit when they're down on their luck, and they just, they're part of the community, not just coming in like I won't name a chain store, but coming in like a chain store and, taking the money out of the community.
Sounds good.
I'm Nathan Boone, welcome to my store. Please tell me what you're looking for. If you're just browsing, that's just fine. You'll find me down on Aisleway 9. I got coats and tars on sale, pecan pies and ginger ale, ropes and rakes and paint and string. Oh yes, I've got most anything. Way down in my youngest days, so far back in time, I dreamed of hearing that bell and saying, welcome to Boone's Five and Dime. Those plates are 5 or 3 for 10. Thank you, ma'am, for coming in. Oh, look at me, I talk too much. I'm lonely since the mine closed up. I work so late most every night, I never made time for a wife. My brother's boy works summers here, building backs and head cashier. Way down in my youngest days, so far back in time, I dreamed of hearing that bell and saying, welcome to Boone's Five and Dime. in my youngest days, so far back in time, I dreamed of hearing that bell and saying, welcome to Boone's 5 and Dime. I'm Nathan Boone, welcome to my store. Please tell me what you're looking for. If you're just browsing, that's just fine. You'll find me down on Aisle 9.
Thank you.
So, the show you're doing, is it like a play or is it a one-man show where you just play the music?
Which show?
The Appalachian one.
Well, I haven't designed that show yet, but I can do it several ways. Like I've done the Dust Bowl show several ways. I have, for Dust Bowl show, and I'll probably do the same for Appalachia, is I created a high-resolution movie that lasts for an hour where it's all synchronized to the music. So it's real images and real movies, little bits of movies from back in the day, from the Dust Bowl. And there's lots of archival footage and very famous pictures taken by, usually the government sent people down there to take pictures of what was going on down there. So there's lots of pictures in the public domain that are quite famous, and then a million that aren't. But I created that and then I talk in between the songs, and I've got it planned out what I'm going to say, obviously, to give people a bit of history, just maybe a minute between songs, just to put this next song into context, so that by the time you've watched the whole hour, you feel like maybe you got a history lesson without really asking for one.
Right.
But not in a boring way, but in an entertaining way, with music and movies, all synchronized together. And I can do that one several ways. I can do it with some of the tracks from the album playing, because they're on the movie that I've created, or I can just not use that and play the songs just like I played that one, just by myself, just like I've been playing everything today. Or I can do it with multiple players. So it kind of depends on the venue and how much what their budget is, and how much room there is for other performers and that kind of thing. So I can do it a variety of ways, but I've played it all over the country. Particularly in areas where the Dust Bowl is more well known, like the whole middle part of the country, because that was where it mostly directly affected those people, but also out in California Central Valley, where so many people went out to looking for work during the Dust Bowl, like Bakersfield and that whole area. That's, if you read The Grapes of Wrath, that's where most of that book takes place, because that's where that family, the Joad family from Oklahoma, went out to looking for work out there.
Right.
So I'm probably going to do the same thing with Appalachia, is create a multi-purpose film backdrop that I can use. And I have a big, giant screen. I have two of them, one that's 8 feet wide and one that's 12 feet wide. And I have a rear projector that I can use, so I don't have to have a light shining in my face or have me blocking the picture. So I can stand right in front of the screen and do a show that way.
Nice.
It's fun to do.
And it sounds like you're using some of your skills as a score writer as well, because you're basically scoring your own movie there.
That's right. It's essentially kind of like a movie in a way. Yeah. It is a lot of fun, and artistically too. I have to create this video, so I've learned a lot about video editing. It's not that dissimilar from, I do my own production work, at least pre-production work for my albums. I don't do all of it, but I do my own production. And that's a different editing skill, but it's still in the same kind of zip code.
Yeah, what do you use for video editing?
I use Adobe Premiere.
Oh, yeah.
Which has come a long way. I used it years ago, and it wasn't very good. Now it's really great. I have some filmmaking friends. That's what they do. They make films, and they switched over from using Media Composer or the Avid system to Adobe Premiere, which used to be like a consumer product, but you can make a feature movie on it, and people do.
Right.
It's quite good.
Yeah, and so I guess you're on PC, not Mac.
No, I'm on Mac.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Only. I don't have a PC.
All right. Well, me too.
I don't have a PC, and I have no Microsoft products in my life, and I'm so much happier now than when I used to have to use them. No offense, but everybody has their own preference.
Yeah. Well, we'll stop that discussion because that could lead into hairy stuff. So, the shows that you're doing, do you tour with them a lot, or do you go to libraries? What do you?
I've done the Dust Bowl one. I do at libraries. I just did it in Warwick, Rhode Island last month. It's the first time I ever did it in the Northeast. But so usually it's elsewhere. But yeah, I do those kind of shows. I do solo shows. I do band shows. It's kind of a variety of things. It depends on the venue and what the budget is. Mm-hmm. If they're going to pay me $300, I can't bring the band from Nashville. It's not going to happen unless I want to lose $2,000 every time I play, which I can't afford to do.
People don't realize when you ask for a band, it's a lot of effort and money, and Yeah,
it is.
You should be paying the band a decent amount.
It would be nice. Yeah. It would be a change.
But
a welcome change.
Yeah.
If you're paying, 5 guys $200 to $300 each to go play, and then you have to bring them there, and you have to pay for their hotel, and you have to feed them and make sure that they're happy so they play really good for you.
Right.
You have a basic cost that you have to recover just to break even. That's not making any money when you break even, but at least you don't lose money.
Right. That makes sense. So, what about another song? What's something you've done on a previous album? What was your biggest hit?
Probably I Come From America, which is on the Dust Bowl album. It's kind of like my homage to Woody Guthrie, who wrote.
Oh, okay.
And he's from Oklahoma, and he famously wrote "This Land Is Your Land, This Land Is My Land," one of the best folk songs ever written. And like that song, a lot of people think of it as the version we learned in high school or junior high, even is just kind of the nice parts of it. It's from the mountains to the ocean to all that kind of beautiful stuff about America, celebrating America, which is true. But also there's verses later in the song that we normally don't learn that are a little bit, because Woody was a folk singer, and folk singing has a long tradition of being kind of like protest music in a lot of ways. And he sang about tough things like people not being paid a fair wage, and he sang during the Depression, which was simultaneous with the Dust Bowl. So there's lots of anti-depression songs and that kind of thing, worker treatment, all that stuff. And so this song is kind of the same thing. It makes you feel good about America, but at the same time, the subtext or the topic that's behind, you'll hear it mostly in the bridge of the song, is about the way Americans treated other Americans when they went in large numbers out to California, Central Valley looking for work. There were poll taxes, border taxes. They got run out of town by the police, and they were not treated well at all. They were not welcome, and they were not wanted. And they were not treated good or well at all. So there's that, too. So you got to, there's two sides to every coin.
Right.
I love the country. It's a great country, but like we've got a couple of black eyes. Slavery is one. Treatment of Native Americans is the other one. Other two big black eyes. But this is a bruise here, what we did.
Okay.
Mistreating Americans, trying to just move inside America. These weren't illegal aliens. They were Americans trying to go to another state and getting run off like dogs.
That's crazy.
So this is called I Come From America.
Right.
Can you see the Texas in my eyes? I left her, but she's still strong in me. We broke down in Kingman, so we walked to Bakersfield. Don't you know the mother road? I come from America, America, America. I come from America, America's from me. Can you hear the pilgrim in my voice? Blown ashore by undeserving winds. Beggars can't be choosers, but we choose to still be men. Don't you know? Don't you know? I come from America, America, America. I come from America, America's from me. We're the desperate and unwanted, we're the strangers from the shanty side of town. Do my eyes look proud but haunted? That's the destiny in me. That's the Texas that you see. Can you feel the prairie on my skin? Baked and brown from work and sweat and tears. Daddy always told me that the dirt would take us in. Don't you know? Don't you know? I come from America, America, America. I come from America, America's from me. I come from America, America, America. I come from America, America's from me.
Thank you.
So, that's great. I actually remember that one. That's also
you do?
good. Yeah, I remember that one from when you performed. It's a great song.
Oh, right, thank you.
And so when you did the Dust Bowl, how many years ago? That was about 2, 3
almost
years?
3, yeah. Came out at the middle of 2017.
So, and you got Appalachia on your mind. You got another project in mind? Before?
Yes, I have 2 albums I'm working on simultaneously.
Yeah? What's the other one?
The other one is more country. Like I played that song, Man of Steel. That's a pretty country song. That's not really a roots song. That's kind of plain country. It's right down the middle of that lane. And I have several other songs like that. So they don't really fit on an American roots record. They don't. So I'm working just slowly in the background on a record that would be more like mainstream country. Not pop country, because I don't like that stuff, but just like down the middle of the road of what kind of traditional country.
Yeah, what do you think of the Ken Burns thing? Do you see that?
Yeah, I haven't seen all of it, but it's really great. I just watched the first couple, and boy, I learned a lot of stuff I had no idea about.
Yeah.
I thought I knew a lot, but I realized I didn't really hardly know anything after I saw that. Like, there's a lot of great stuff in there, and it helps to see the bigger picture, too. You step back.
Right. Well, since you're into history, I mean, it's fun to go into the music history, too.
Yeah, it is. It is.
So, what are you doing for the country album? Does that not have a theme? That's just general.
Right now, it doesn't. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have a theme because it's just every once in a while when I'm trying to write a roots song or write a country song by accident. So they're just building up, and I got to do something with them.
Yeah.
So I guess it's probably not going to be a theme album. Probably
right.
not. But it's not decided yet. It's a little bit early. Appalachia, though, definitely. That is a 100% theme record.
Where do people go to get your stuff? Is there a website?
Yeah, I use all 3 of my names because Grant Smith is so boring. And if you look up Grant Smith on the internet, you probably will find everything except me. But if you go to Grant Maloy Smith, you will find 10 pages of me.
And that's 1 L.
1 L. That's the thing that trips everybody up. So Grant Maloy, Maloy, Smith.com. You can put hyphens between the 3 names, or you don't have to. I think it'll correct it if you don't. I think I have both domains. So if you go to my website, you can see, where I'm playing. You can play music. You can watch videos, all the ones I talked about, and many others. You can just find out all about me. There's a lot on the website.
You have any clips from the Dust Bowl show?
Not from the show itself. No, I don't.
Okay.
I have some music videos that I did, and some of that video is used in the show.
Okay.
But they're music. They're just kind of like plain music videos. Like this one for that song I just played, I Come From America.
Well, I was thinking people could get a sense when they want to hire you.
Yeah. I kept trying to arrange that. I haven't managed to get it filmed properly yet.
All right.
There a few people did some video, but you need good lighting to be sure that, because I'm standing in front of the screen, which is being from behind. It's being played from behind, and I haven't got one that looks good. I have to get a professional photographer or videographer to shoot that for me to make sure it looks good.
It's all a challenge. Yeah. Toward the end of the show, I like to ask people what advice you give to other musicians who are wanting to do something in music. What do you tell them?
Wow. Well, usually when I ask them what their goals are, I think that's important. I always say the music world it's like a coin, and a coin has two sides. One side is the fun side. It's playing and writing music. That is lots of fun, and I could do that all day long. In fact, I usually do it
Right.
at least half the day. But if you want to be, and by the way, you can stop right there. If you just love music and you don't want to try to be a professional musician, you can just enjoy music like people used to. People didn't try to be professional musicians,
Right.
until within the last 100 years. But if you want to try to make it a business, you have to treat it like a business. The other side of that coin is the business side, and that is, especially for musicians and people that are creative and artistic, is not the fun side. It is not fun, and it's not fun anyway, unless you get to be magically successful, which happens 1 out of 1 billion times. You can't count on that. You have to approach it like a business, and just imagine you're doing a startup, of any kind of business at all, any kind of startup. It's hard. I mean,
Right.
even keeping this place going and getting enough people to come in here to pay the bills and all is a challenge. Every business is a challenge, and an artistic one, especially if you want to play original music, is a triple challenge. I've got some friends who play in really good tribute bands. Like one's in one of the best, maybe the best Rush tribute band in the world. They've won RushCon up in Ontario like 5 times. They're unbelievable, and they really do it as a 3-piece. They make money. They really make money. But they're not playing their own music. But they
Right.
really make a lot of money. So it depends what your goals are. If you want to play your own music, you got to approach it one way. If that's not a priority for you, if you want to be a journeyman or just an instrumentalist, that's easier. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying it's easier than trying to be like I do, where you play your own stuff. For
Right.
people that, if they don't already know you, are by definition not interested until
Right.
you make them be interested in some way. So, I don't know. I think it's about goal setting and then being realistic about it.
Yeah, well, I think that you doing the theme stuff certainly makes people somewhat interested too. That's a good
Exactly.
approach.
It gets me, instead of at bat, it puts me on first base at least.
Right.
I'm already on base. So that helps a lot. And it also helps just from a practical point in terms of getting publicity. When you travel around and you're doing shows, you try to get on local TV shows and radio programs and that kind of stuff. And if you have an album that you're promoting, that you're playing, that is related to something, particularly if it's of interest to that region of the country, or maybe it's connected to something that's going on at that moment, it makes it far more likely that they will give you a spot on the ABC morning show or the local Fox entertainment show or the local NBC, CBS, all over the country. It's much easier to get on those shows and the radio programs if you're connected to something bigger than just you trying to sell your concert tickets.
Right. Yeah, because it gives people something to grab on.
It's a story,
yeah.
and they're all about stories packaged in 2 minutes in the morning. That's what it's all about. That's realism. So if you want to be, unless you're already big and famous, then you don't have to worry. You're not listening to me because you've already gone way past me. You don't need my advice, that's for sure. I could use yours. But if you're not this far, just take all that into consideration. Try to make yourself be a story.
Well, speaking of that, do you have a song that's more of another story kind of song?
A story kind of song. Let me see. Yeah, I do. In fact, I'll put my little finger picks on here.
All right. We've got time for about 2 more songs.
Okay.
So we'll do this one and then one more.
All right. This one's called Way Down Low. It's probably the most folky thing I've done in a while. But it is really a story kind of a song.
All right.
Some of it's direct from real life, and some of it is a little bit conjecture, but you'll have to decide for yourself which is which.
I had a father, and he had me. He smelled like ocean and Galilee. He went a-sailing one silent day. He broke my mama in an awful way. Lay down, way down low, where the lost people go. I knew a woman and she knew me. She needed loving so terribly. She went a-driving, sadder than sad. She went out looking for what she had. Way down low, where the sad people go. I met a preacher and he met me. Said he knew Jesus, his heart was free. He knew he was dying, devil in his bones. He weren't scared of dying, he's going home. Way down low, where the old people go. Way down low, where the old people go. I left the ocean and she left me. I came to the mountains far from the sea. I found that woman, my mom and dad. Came all the people I ever had. Way down low, where the good people go.
That was great. So you got one more for us?
Yeah, let me do, I'll do The Boy Who Built the Moon. It's kind of a fun song. It's a little bit metaphorical.
Okay.
But I won't spoil it. I'll let you people figure out what they think it means. I think it's more interesting. Unless it's really like a biographical song or something. Metaphorical. You ready?
I'm ready.
I've been searching everywhere. There's a place, but she's not there. Lonely lights are way up high. They need her and so do I. And I'm gonna take these hands. I'm gonna catch the wind and tame the fire. And I will shape this land and lift her up into the sky. I'm the boy who built the moon. Take your gloves and steady light. Get your boots and pull them tight. There's hats and tools to spare, and breathers full of air. There's work for every hand. There's more work than we planned. And I'm gonna take these hands. I'm gonna catch the wind and tame the fire. And I will shape this land and lift her up into the sky. I'm the boy who built the moon. 1,000 sleepless nights, 1,000,000 fireflies. I'm wishing from afar. Here comes the morning star, and I'm gonna take these hands. I'm gonna catch the wind and tame the fire. And I will shape this land and lift her up into the sky. And I will not fail. I will not beg. I will not plead. And I'm gonna make things right. I will not fall, I will not cede. I'm the boy who built the moon.
Thank you, Aaron.
Well, thanks very much for coming today. This was great. Really enjoyed hearing about all the stuff you're doing. It's a very long list of projects you got going, so you'll be busy.
I'm busy, yes. And thanks to everybody for listening. Thanks for you, Aaron, for having me in here today. And thanks anybody who stuck with me this long and heard it all. I appreciate it.
I think there'll be some. It's a pretty interesting podcast today. So I enjoyed talking to you about your life and music. And so people can find you at Grant Maloy with one L, Maloy Smith.
Yep, .com.
And
you could look me up in the usual places, like on Facebook. You go to Grant Maloy Smith Official, or it's just Grant Maloy Smith with no hyphens or anything on Twitter and Instagram as well.
Okay, and what's your next gig?
I am playing in, what do they call it? I can't pronounce it. It's a place in Central Valley, California. Tehachapi? Something like that.
I don't know.
I've never been there. It's a cool place called Fiddler's Crossing, south of Bakersfield. And then I'm playing up in Fresno, and then I'm back to Bakersfield. And then I'm coming back, and I'm going to have to drive all the way down to Florida and play some shows up and down Route 81 we were talking about earlier, and then farther.
Sounds good. All right, so we've been talking with Grant Maloy Smith today, and I wanted to thank the Greenville Junction Shop again. That's Greenville, JUNKTION, and also check out the Hearing Room's website, hearingroom.net, and you can find out all about membership and events and everything else you could want to know about the Hearing Room. So check that out and have a great week.
Start with a dream and share it with some friends. The idea deepens and grows. The dream takes shape, it has form and substance. A community soon arose. A listening room, the hearing room. A place to find a home to play. A listening room, the hearing room. Express yourself and have your say. The walls are thin, sirens blare. The tables sit